All right, ladies and gentlemen, up next we have a discussion, fireside chat on CosmWasm with Simon from Confio and Ivan from Waku. Big round of applause.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thanks for coming. In this session, in this chat, we're going to talk with Simon Bartz. For me, it's a great pleasure to meet you and spend this time together. And we're going to talk about Confio and CosmWasm, which is a technology that was created by you, if I'm not mistaken. And you are the managing director of Confio, and let us know your experience and why did you became, or what happened until you became managing director of Confio.
Yeah, thank you, sure. So Confio is a development company and one of our main products, or actually the main product that we built, is the smart contracting engine CosmWasm, which is a piece of open source software. So we have this separation. That is the product, Confio is the company. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of Confio. Confio was founded roughly 2020. The project started the CosmWasm project started in a hackathon in 2019. It was not invented by me. I was just following Ethan Frey, who is the famous father of CosmWasm. I was just, pretty much his shadow for a very long time, and call myself the chief implementer of Ethan Frey's ideas. So I was turning this hackathon project, which was a proof of concept, into something that is actually production ready, and have been contributing to the development of that software for 5 years now.
Awesome, congrats. And I have a question, where does Confio word comes from? Because it's kind of a Spanish word. And
yeah, it's definitely has Spanish roots, and it's connected to the term trust in Spanish. So yeah, the slogan of the company is building trust. So building in terms of establishing, but also building in terms of creating tools to make that happen. And yeah, that's the idea. That's what we spend our time and energy on. Building systems that you can trust, systems that are reliable, systems that people can trust their digital goods. So yeah, that's where the name is coming from. That's also why we can't register a trademark, because it's a name in the Spanish dictionary, so that's hard for Confio.
Okay, cool, thanks. Regarding the WASM term within the CosmWasm, what does it mean, or what it stands for?
Yeah, so CosmWasm is a combination of the Cosm part, which relates to Cosmos, and WASM, which is short for WebAssembly. WebAssembly is a bytecode representation. It has been built for the browsers by the big tech giants. It is an open specification. A lot of well-funded contributors to the specification. It has been built for the browser, which gives us all those nice properties, as it is sandbox by default. You go to a website, you load arbitrary code, you execute it on your machine, but you want to make sure whatever code you're given cannot harm your machine or you as a user. So we get those nice properties, which are very, very handy in the context of blockchains, for free. By using WebAssembly. So there's a lot of movement lately to put WebAssembly on the server as well. So you have all kinds of backend applications running WebAssembly, and it's quite famous and well used in different blockchain ecosystems. So it's not only in CosmWasm, which is specific to smart contracting framework for the Cosmos SDK, but there are also at least a handful of other blockchain-related smart contracting frameworks that rely on WebAssembly. And the main selling point is you get so much technology for free that you can just leverage and focus on what's specific and unique to your product, which is cool.
Awesome, very, very interesting things. Regarding the initial steps of Confio or CosmWasm, did you consider creating a token or a blockchain or something like that?
Yeah, so this has been a long discussion in like 2020 when we realized, okay, we built a bunch of open source software and that is cool and stuff, but how do we monetize this? How do we sustain the company, the development, and so on and so forth? And a lot of people told us, hey, you should launch this primary CosmWasm blockchain. But it never felt right to do so. Because we really wanted CosmWasm to be truly multi-chain. We did not want to have that as a technology that is on our chain and can also be used on other chains. It should really be on as many chains as possible. We could not really figure out a niche or some specific selling point, some specific identity where we said, okay, this is what our blockchain should be. It would really be a general purpose smart contracting platform, and to us that felt a little bit too cheap, too boring. And for the app chain thesis, if you will spin up your own layer 1 blockchain, you should really know what kind of community you want to build, what makes your chain special, what users you want to include, what users you want to exclude, what kind of culture you want to have, what kind of tokenomics. And we did not have any answers to any of those questions other than saying, yeah, it should run CosmWasm. So we did not follow that idea. There was a part in the history of Confio where we were developing a blockchain ecosystem called T-Grade that had a very specific positioning. It had an external investor specifically for this blockchain. CosmWasm was an important part of that blockchain, but the blockchain really had its own identity, but we are not working on this project anymore. So right now we are really serving 100 blockchains using CosmWasm and not our own blockchain.
Okay, cool, thanks. Regarding on every project, a very difficult or complex part is getting revenue or getting funds. What is the license model of CosmWasm, and what is the business model?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one and something that is keeping me up at night for years, sometimes more than in other times. The license for CosmWasm is Apache 2, so everyone can put it on their chain and just use it for free without any kinds of restrictions. You can even embed it in closed source code if you want. So that is important for the distribution of CosmWasm, because if you said, okay, there's some this or that restrictive license, then maybe we have a handful of users, but the long tail, all the blockchains that do not have the legal setup, the funding, the team size to come to some sort of agreement with us as the authors, would not be able to use the software. But now we choose the path to put it out there under a free license, which allows us to get to this point where 100 chains are using the software, which otherwise would not be possible. And only by being on so many chains, we really create the value for all the big players, because they know, okay, a CosmWasm developer who was doing some hobby project on this chain or coming in through some onboarding channel through that chain can now build on my chain as well. People can take their projects, move them from one chain to another. For example, if you have a chain that is failing for whatever reason, which we have seen in the past, they can use their application, use their knowledge, use their insights, and just take it from one chain to another. So that's quite important. However, that comes with the struggle of funding open source in general. I think that's not so different from open source funding outside of the blockchain space, just that our space is way less mature. So we don't have hundreds and thousands of users who are generating millions in revenue using our technology. So yeah, the funding sources are pretty much the Interchain Foundation, which is funding the development of CosmWasm, as well as the chains, or some of the chains using it. But that is not super stable. That is always a struggle, and yeah, that is keeping us busy to figure it out every year again and again.
Yeah, it makes 100% sense. Regarding the technology, you mentioned that we are talking about WebAssembly, and I believe the CosmWasm is implemented mostly in Rust. Why Rust and not C++ or any other?
Yeah, so when we started, we were looking for languages that you can compile to WebAssembly, and Rust has always had a very strong WebAssembly backend in their compiler. So in 2019, that backend was already great, where a lot of other programming languages were just getting started with some kind of WebAssembly support. When building CosmWasm, also the virtual machine, we used a project called Wasmer to do the actual execution of the WebAssembly, which itself is written in Rust. So it was natural for the virtual machine to be implemented in Rust. On the hackathon team, there was one person who had a very strong Rust background. We knew there was this strong WebAssembly compiler, and those were the starting points. And after that, we really got to love the programming language, and used it even more in the contracts. As a contract developer, you benefit from a rich ecosystem of already existing libraries that you can just import into your contract. You just go to crates.io, whatever you find there that you can embed in your Rust project, you can use right away into your CosmWasm contract. So that's pretty cool. From a design point of view, I think it's good that Rust is a language that enforces discipline and that makes it very hard to write sloppy code. And I think that's a good property to have if you are securing other people's money. The combination of that makes it a great candidate. I'm not necessarily saying it's the only option. I think Rust for application development is a little bit too low level. So if you ask me, my favorite programming language for smart contracts would be Swift. If you ever developed Swift in iOS, you will love it. It is very similar as modern as Rust, but a little bit higher level. You don't have different types of strings and this kind of annoyance.
Cool, interesting. Regarding the selling point of CosmWasm, what would be the main reasons to convince anyone to use CosmWasm before any other options in the market?
Yeah, so CosmWasm has been built specifically for blockchains using the Cosmos SDK and working with IBC. So if you build something in around that technology, if you're building something that wants to connect to other modules in the Cosmos SDK, if you want to build an application where you have two contracts communicating with each other over IBC, those are the use cases where CosmWasm is really strong and where no other smart contracting solution is as specialized as CosmWasm. On top of that, you get a lot of strong cryptography. WebAssembly is pretty fast to execute. It is compiled before the execution, so you can do some heavy lifting in terms of computation that you can hardly do in an EVM environment. So a bunch of benefits there as well.
Okay, cool, thanks. And regarding the roadmap for next year, what is expected to happen in Confio and CosmWasm?
Yeah, so we are right now securing the funding for next year, and once we have that, we have a bunch of interesting, bigger items on the roadmap. Most part of our development, or at least, let's say 40%, go in very boring maintenance, but that is absolutely needed to build and deploy production-ready software. But on top of that, there are things like zero-knowledge proof verification, which we want to allow in CosmWasm. There are already a bunch of people doing that in WebAssembly. We want to make that fast and cheap through host functions, such that, yeah, you can port an application that is built for Ethereum, where you do zero-knowledge proof verification, or we provide the ability to use some more modern, more interesting curves. Other than that, we realized that a bunch of people have struggles using the actor model and them passing around of messages and getting replies when a message was executed and so on and so forth. We want to streamline this process quite a bit. And there's another big topic around tooling for developing and building and deploying contracts. So we have something in the making, which is a graphical user interface that does not only allow you to do all of those operations, but also brings discoverability. So someone who has a vague idea of what CosmWasm does, what it can do, can use this tool and is guided a little bit through the different steps by having a UI where they see, okay, there are those different tabs and those are the options that I have, and the user is guided a little bit more, like in other types of software, instead of just having some CLI. So.
Okay, cool, thanks. We are about to conclude the talk, and what would be a few words to inspire the audience about how to become an expert in CosmWasm? What is needed?
Yeah, I think first of all, you should learn about the idea of application-specific blockchains and the app chain thesis, which is this idea of building a blockchain that is completely sovereign, that can do whatever you want it to do, and that is not attached to any other blockchain ecosystem. And then from there, learn about IBC, which is this communication protocol that allows you to connect to whatever blockchains you have. And once you realize this kind of technology, that type of direction is interesting to you, then you will quickly end up as a CosmWasm developer, because that is the framework that allows you to do all of those things. So and more specifically, there's a hackathon this weekend. We have seen a workshop on CosmWasm from Pino today, one from Nico on Abstract SDK earlier this week. So watch out for all of those resources. I don't have those kind of resources myself, as I'm not writing CosmWasm smart contracts, but there's more and more people who are helping with the onboarding experience and guiding you in.
Awesome. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure sharing the stage with you, and thanks a lot, Simon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you.